After months of conflict, the rebel fighters in the Tigray region of Ethiopia have recaptured the regional capital of Mekelle from the Ethiopian government forces. This signals a crucial turning point in that 8-month-long civil war. According to the UN officials, rebels have entered the town of Shire. They are continuing to gain ground after the country's army retreated from their posts in the region. The Ethiopian government was quick to declare a ceasefire after the rebels regained control of the Tigray region. A video started circulating on social media showing celebrations on the streets of Mekelle after the ceasefire was announced. However, the Tigray Defense Forces have vowed to drive their enemies out of Tigray. The Ethiopian military has occupied the Tigray region since last November after invading in cooperation with the Eritrean and militia forces to take control from the regional government. The rebels, known as the Tigray Defense Forces, spent months regrouping and began a rolling counterattack back towards the capital, Mekelle, this past week. The months-long fighting between the Tigray People's Liberation Front and the government forces left thousands of people dead, more than 2 million have been displaced, and over 350,000 pushed to the brink of famine. But questions still remain over the fate of 1 million civilians that remain in parts of Tigray and have had no access to any humanitarian aid. The U.S. Agency for International Development says that the famine in the region is entirely man-made and welcomed the ceasefire called by the government of Ethiopia.
The unilateral ceasefire yesterday by the government of Ethiopia is very welcome, and we hope to build on that momentum. To be clear, the threat of widespread famine is man-made. If actors on the ground block assistance and prevent farmers from planting and harvesting, these actors are actively increasing the likelihood of widespread famine.
But the recent developments have left many scrambling to understand what is going on in a country where communication links are largely down. Reactions on the streets of the Ethiopian capital were mixed, but most called for stability in the region.
በኩል ተቀብለው ሰላማዊ ዲሞክራሲያዊ በሆነ መንገድ ችግራቸውን መፍታት ያለባቸው መግባት ያለበት ገባ የገባው ግን ለሰላም ሲባል እንጂ ሌላ ትንኮሳና ሌላ ጦርነት እንዲነሳ መሆን የለበትም
It is yet to be seen whether the ceasefire will be a turning point, but hopes are high that it could calm a conflict that has destabilized Africa's second most populous country. For more on these developments, Coletta Banjohi joining us from Addis Ababa. Coletta, the rebel forces in Tigray have now rejected that ceasefire offer from the central government. Where do things stand at this point? What is the latest that you're gathering?
Well, as we stand now, several hours later, after taking over the capital city of Mekelle, the Tigray Defense Forces, that the government terms as the rebel forces, have not talked about the ceasefire. In fact, what they've said is they are going to work on their enemies, and by enemies, they have specified that they mean the neighboring ethnic community, which is called the Amhara, where we saw government taking, military people from there to come and fight in the Tigray region. And also they say they want to go into Eritrea and kind of pay back for Eritrean forces having been part of this operation. And we've also seen one of the spokespersons of the Tigray Defense Forces saying that they also have a plan to probably march to Addis Ababa. So what we're having now is the Tigray Defense Forces exerting struggling to exert their control to show that they are specifically in control and have power. But on the other side, the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, which is the forces for the federal government, saying that they also have everything under control.
Could the recapturing of Mekelle mean that humanitarian aid will now be allowed for the 1 million civilians who still remain in several parts of Tigray?
That's a very sticky point, because we know that humanitarian aid, coordination is being done by the federal government, which is the government of the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. But now, since part of like Mekelle, which is supposed to be the capital city where most of this coordination happens from Addis Ababa, now that is under the Tigray Defense Forces, I think the humanitarian agencies are also confused as to how coordination will happen, because it has to come from Addis Ababa then to Mekelle. So there is a link that has been cut. That link was the federal government, but now the federal government's presence is very dim in the Tigray region and in Mekelle. So the humanitarian agencies also have to go back to the drawing board and probably consult with the government of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to understand how humanitarian aid will continue going to the Tigray region, which really needs it at the point.
Coletta Vanjohi, we can leave it there for the moment. Thanks very much for those updates. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.